Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Francesco Cipollone. We've been talking with Vandana about OWASP and the challenge of OWASP, and I'd like you to welcome back to this second part of the conversation with Vandana. We opened the floor to few of the questions. We keep on discussing about how to get involved in the community and how to reach out to people to help you because you might find it challenging, but it's actually not. It's asking to people. And I'd like to welcome again Zoe, my co-host. I really enjoy this gender balance discussion, and I'm really keen to actually have a podcast that is balanced on gender. So we too, 50% male. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please participate in the conversation. Come and join us on the Slack channel, on the calls, or interact on the community on Twitter, LinkedIn, and let us know if you want to participate or if you think that there is somebody worthy or that wants to share information. And I'll be more than happy to host in one of the next sessions. So I wish you enjoyed this podcast. This is Francesco, your host. Enjoy. But one of my questions will be, so myself, Sam, and the other chapter leaders have organized a session to try to collaborate in the team of diversity, and thank you for shouting it out. That was DC. I really appreciate that because I think we need more collaboration in the industry, and I think it's critical to see the different aspects because each of our organizations are going to be focused on different things. I mean, Cloud Security Alliance is fundamentally focused on cloud, but in cloud there is application security, and I mean there is security in every field, but we are focusing on different aspects of it because of the nature of our chapter. So how can we encourage more collaboration and communication between the chapter or joint effort?
So what we can do is when we talk about joining hands with chapters, so the first and the foremost uh, thing starts in taking inputs from the different chapters. Every chapter in every location works in a different way. They have
Mm-hmm.
their way of organizing meets. They have a way of sharing knowledge. Let's say I'll give you an example. In Bangalore, the meet happens every month, and uh, sometimes we stream it. Sam, I saw for the first time streaming a chapter leaders meeting in London, and I was
Mm-hmm.
very impressed. And I'm really thankful to him that he gave me a mini iPod tripod stick also to make sure I can stream it. So that was very impressive that I took inputs from their chapter because they're streaming it. And for us it's not always possible, but there is a possibility that if we stream it all over the world, people can see it. So if there is a chapter which is streaming their talks,
Mm-hmm.
it's really great. I always go back to the London chapter streams and listen to them because they are wonderful. And same goes with other chapters. If there's something which they're doing different to bring more people, so it's good that we should take inputs from them.
And I actually thank you. But so on that subject, I think we're facing an amazing opportunity as well, and we're gonna do more webinar as well, more streaming, because with the Cloud Security Alliance here in UK, we're mostly on web platform. But one of the challenges, for example, we have is a lot of the people that work for organization have a very strict PR. So whenever you talk into an organization, the PR is a little bit more flexible. Whenever we're streaming, it becomes extremely restrictive. So how can we enable people to, to schedule this stuff, to work with us, and enable them to actually work with their organization to enable us to stream?
So now there's one a very important thing here that as you said, that not every organization will be comfortable in streaming. I totally
Mm-hmm.
understand because when we reach out to the organizations here and want to just host a meeting, sometimes there are so many approvals required, and streaming also might go to the legal. So that's
Yeah.
why they might have said. So we can propose that only this piece will be, or only this area will be live stream where speaker will be talking and nothing else,
Mm-hmm.
if they can do it. But sometimes it's really not feasible to enforce an organization to let them or allow us, let them allow us to go ahead with all of that. So we have to do, we just have to refrain from screening them. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I could say, because there are the terms and conditions that organizations have. We will
Oh,
have to
very
make sure
true.
that, okay, the terms and conditions that the organizations have, we'll have to make sure that when we are organizing or hosting the meetups there, we'll have to comply with them. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
not very comfortable, we'll have to refrain. We can just only tell them, assure them that this is the only place we would be live streaming, but nothing beyond that.
No, that's great, and I think giving out the knowledge in whatever way, shape, or form is useful. I mean, podcast, I mean, just streaming, or even just reaching out to the community. But then I think with some and with the other leaders here in UK, we faced one big challenge: that communication and advertisement in order to reach out to as many people is a challenge. So how can we, what would be your take on reaching out to as many people as possible? So even
So
inter chapter.
mhm. So even into chapters, it's about spreading the word. I have seen within OWASP also that if someone has to ask anything, it's very open. Shoot out an email, and it'll go to the whole leaders list or the people who are part of it. So you have to speak up. If you want
Mm-hmm.
suggestions, speak up. I know just someone recently asked, if I want to start a chapter, how should I do it? What are the recommendations you give? So that person is very much aware that I want to host a meeting, but I don't know where to start off. So you have to ask. People are ready to give suggestions. The people who are leaders from long, they would be happy to tell you. Sometimes you will have to host a meetup in a coffee shop, wherein you're like a mini group, right? Like five, six
Whatever
people in,
works.
yeah, whatever works. Whether it's an organized, it's within a company, within a shop, or even a house, or even on the terrace.
Yeah,
I remember in the past, OWAS Bangalore meetups have been, or Null Bangalore have been hosted on the terrace, like just so
that's really
it's
cool.
so it's like wherever. The only motive is just to make sure that we are spreading knowledge, we are exchanging the notes. That's the most important thing in any
Yeah,
community.
no, that's a great input. Maybe we take the meeting or the meetup too seriously, and then we become entwined with organizing and asking for sponsorship and asking for location. And as you say, it's sometimes it's just a gathering of people. No, that's
Agree.
that's that's great. What's your take, Zoe?
I completely agree. It's so easy to get caught up in the logistics, and the important part is really right there within us. That sounded super, spiritual and mystical, but just in terms of what everybody does and what their experience can bring, and how there's so much insecurity, and you can't do everything alone, and you can't learn everything alone, and everything's constantly evolving. Because a combination of tools and people, and the use of those tools, and when, and also communicating to the developers and communicating to management, also, as we discussed the two approaches.
Yeah, no, that's great. And some was just shutting out that university um, are hosting uh, a hosting event and are happy to host events. So great shout out. But before we continue with me rambling about questions, let me open the floor to question. Is anybody have any specific question for Vandana? I can unmute you all, or you can just unmute yourself. Masha, Sam,
Hi,
Loredana.
here's Loredana speaking. I do not have a specific question, but just really, I would like to highlight how both Zoe and Dana are really pushing a lot, in this effort that we are doing to have more women, in this community and moving in cybersecurity. I also see that you are very, interested in this activity. So, I think this is quite an important action. So I just would like to say that it's important to support.
So the line is quite bad. So if I can summarize, is how do we get more women in security and how do we get more people engaged?
They need role models, and that is us. So thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Loredana. Praise, continuing, just continuing to be and share and mentor. And so thank you, Francesco.
So
Thank you so much.
Vandana, what's your take? What's your take on getting more and more women involved in security? And in AppSec that is even more niche.
Right. So it's about, I would say, sharing is caring, and as Loredana and Zoe said, we need more mentors. And if we have mentors who are ready to mentor and share their knowledge, I am sure we are not way uh, we are not far away from the place wherein we have everyone on the same plate. We have everyone who are sharing the same knowledge, and that's why from the trainings also we're trying to spread the knowledge. We want to make sure that we all are, because we all are equal. It's not about that we have to bring more women, but we have to make sure that we enable them to be more technical. They say that
Mm-hmm.
yes, we're there and we can conquer the world. And I have mentors who are wonderful, who are role models. I can say we have few on the call itself, and then Tanya is there, Shira is there. There are so many people who are like wonderful. They're so amazing. You get inspired every time you just look at them. You just read through their articles, you talk to them, you get inspired. Like every time I talk to Loredana, she has something new to bring to the floor. Like she always have different perspectives, and she's doing really amazing in Italy, and she's involved in so many things. And even same goes with the wonderful women who are working, who are part of London chapter. I was in discussion with Andrea, and she's getting involved in a lot of university relationships as well. So it's like we have people now, and it's just that we have to get more people. It's like bringing up a chain so that
Yeah, it's keeping the
women
momentum.
bring in. Yes.
And it's having that snowball effect. But I think in that aspect, communication is key, and organizing meetup and getting people together and making them feel comfortable and safe that this is a space that is not that scary, that there are people that can help you. I mean, it's a scary place. InfoSec, it's quite mental in terms of stress, in terms of people that are quirky. So I would say coming from a different industry and from a different area, it could be quite scary because it's a completely different field. Maybe we're getting better at it on being a little bit more business focused, but yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that it's not just women being the role models. I have had mentors who are men. I got to so I was introduced to OWASP by one of the person who was part of one of the trainings. So
Mm-hmm.
my first mentor was a male, and so I treated that person as a role model. I don't idolize, but I respect um their opinion. I take the inputs seriously. And when we say role models, you just don't have to be the replica of them. You have your own
Mm-hmm.
identity. They are guiding you. They're giving you a light, or they're showing you a light. So you just have to grow yourself. You should have your own thought process, that if they're guiding me on something, what best I can make out of it. And trust me, mentors feel so happy when you grow, and they're always happy to see you growing. So it's about we bringing each other up, not just bringing women, but all of each. Like right now you and I are talking,
Yeah.
when we have Zoe, we have Loredana, we have Sam, we have Kriti, so many people. We are here as part of the mentoring one day because we want to exchange knowledge with each other. It's not just you asking questions to me or I am answering. We are exchanging certain notes, we are exchanging certain ideas, and
Hmm.
we are talking on a common ground because we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm
But
sure you are a mentor to few people.
yeah, and but one of the challenges that I have is how do you maintain a healthy balance between, well, we are on the same level at this point in time, but when you have younger mentee, one challenge that I have is like they want to follow you regardless of whatever you say. It's like, as you say, idolizing, making you as an idol, or just sticking to whatever you say. And it's
Mhm.
really difficult sometimes to just stimulate the conversation and not just, spoon feeding.
Right. So,
Right, but at the same not same time not try to seem like you're quizzing them in an unnatural way.
It's a difficult balance though, because you want to encourage and push people to develop their own thought process, but my natural thought process, as I come from a teaching background,
mhm.
I tell people what to do. It's like my natural behavior, but sometimes it's like spoon feeding because you don't develop that critical thinking. You don't develop people to actually come up with their own thing. And sometimes I'm just surprised with the thought process, how it goes. But I
Mhm.
need to force myself and stop myself. So how do we? What's your mentorship approach, Vandana?
So, what I suggest, I am going to be talking about pure AppSec right now.
Yeah.
So let's say if someone comes to me and says that I want to learn application security, where should I start? The first point I would say that there is a hacker's handbook for application security and OWASP
Hmm.
top 10 guide, which is amazing. It is good, that what are the robots, what is crawling, spidering, everything is there. Every basic details you can find uh, in a starter web app guide. Now you have to start reading, and once you learn one vulnerability, start pen testing. There are
Hmm.
vulnerable web apps, only try on them first. Once you are very well versed with that, then move on to the second. If you don't understand, give me a call, I'll make you understand. Let's set up a weekly call or a bi-weekly call. I'll make you understand, but then you have to practice it yourself, because I can only make you understand, I can't spoon feed you. You have your brain, you have to grow yourself, and you have come to me because you want to be mentored by me, right? We can
Hmm.
only share our knowledge to an extent, but then you have to extend it further. So we can guide you what all things you should do to be an expert in that, or to reach a level, even to the basic level. We can guide you that these are the things that you should do. Once you're done, come back to me and we'll discuss further. Trust me, if there are 10 people who are coming to you and you are telling about these things to them, there are only 3 people who will be coming back to you saying that I'm stuck somewhere. Rest other sevens, they'll just go away there. So it's fine even if 3
Will
people
they
are
just
coming
go
there.
away?
Yeah, trust me, that happens, and it's completely fine. Because
Yes.
uh, mentoring is never spoon feeding. It's about giving the right direction to someone and telling, making, not even telling, but uh, enabling them to think in the direction that they should be thinking. Because sometimes you need a trigger uh, to think differently.
Hmm.
So you might be a trigger. So if 3 people come back and say that I'm stuck here, can you help me? Then you know ki ha, these people are actually trying to be trying to be there, and trying to understand, trying to learn.
Yeah. Do we? Thanks, Vandana. That's insightful. Do we have any other question on the floor for Vandana?
I'd say thank you, Vandana. That was really, really good, especially that, when you'd say you're not, it's Kriti here, by the way. If you are spoon feeding people, it is good. We're getting a lot of people on board with security, but at the same time, I see a lot of bad eggs, and you don't really want to be spoon feeding them. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. You could question that, you know. but I do feel that it's a great filtration point to actually say that they are, yeah, you're not here to spoon feed, go try it yourself. That's the best way to learn, and then come back. So no, I do agree with you on that. Thanks for that.
Most welcome.
Any other question for Vandana from the floor? Sam, Masha? All right, I'll ask a question myself. So it's a challenging question, as always. So how do you, there is a lot of buzz talk about DevSecOps, and there is a lot of focus on actually application security and building and building and building. How do you slide in and apply and keep on applying the concept of governance and the concept of how important is design in the DevOps world?
So when I talk about DevSecOps, I always start off with the culture, because we were talking about uh, the different approaches that it has to come from the leadership, right? So the governance has to come. If we are building in automation, we are enabling ourselves, we are making sure that the process becomes easy for us, but then there has to be a governance body. If we are talking in terms of technical, but uh, we all have to be very well aware when we say DevSecOps, we will be changing few processes. We will be making new amendments in the process that we currently have. Talk about the waterfall model that we used to have earlier, and suddenly you switch that off and say that we are going to DevSecOps, wherein it's a whole pipeline. We're bringing in a lot of automations. So uh, governance has to be there also, that what process we will be following, whether that actually applies to us or not. Because there's a say that not every company will have the same DevSecOps model, or same model will fit. Even the development team, when they're working, they will not be working on the same languages. They might not be using the same libraries. They might not be working the way they should be working with the operations team. So there will be a lot of things you'll have to streamline. And for that, obviously you would need governance to have proper streamline.
But how do you balance, for example, well, no, I totally agree with you. But for example, how do you balance when you need? Let me rephrase in this way. When I think there are two speed of design. Whenever you're building something completely new, you need to have time to think about it, and it could be DevOps, but there is a time and place for DevOps or DevSecOps.
Mm-hmm.
When you're building a house, you want to make sure that it's solid. But then when you start framing the windows, when you start framing the doors, then you can do that in an iterative way without compromising the infrastructure or the structural solidity of the application.
Right.
I think that's my take on design and also governance. Whenever you're changing, I don't know, the handle of a window, maybe it's not a security impacting change, but when you're changing one of the pillar or the main door, that's a security impacting change. So the struggle that I always have in balancing that is having team defining their own what security impacting change to an application is.
Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you. Security plays a very, very important role uh, everywhere. Because as you said that if it's a handle of the door, if that handle breaks, what will happen? You would not be able to open the door. You will be in trouble. So you have to make sure that if that handle breaks, what's the way out? So you always need to have proper plan, and you always go via plan. And um,
Not to worry.
so uh, that plan itself is different, because there's one thing that I was reading just few days back about the automation, like whether do we need automation or not, whether it's going to take away security jobs and so many other things. But think about, you talked about designing, okay, we have a design, but that doesn't have HTTPS in picture that the application should.
Not to worry. She's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just discussing about
Yeah. So
secure design.
correct. So think about that if we do not have a written policy that we need to have a strong password or we need to have SSL implemented, even in the design phase, wherein we are talking about a document, it's just a document thing. And if we don't have written in that design document, are we going to have a good secure model? I don't think so. We need to properly read that document. We have to make sure that architecture document itself is very well built up before it even goes to the design phase. So we are making sure that all of it goes together. And governance has so many um, definitions to it.
Yeah.
It is no one definition to it.
It's just applying control whenever, not command and control, but applying control when it's logical to do it.
Yeah.
That's my take on governance. It's like trying not to choke stuff, innovation, but also slow down to actually make sure you're promoting good code, good application in production.
Right, right. That's why this DevSecOps culture came into picture, that rather than you running the code, moving through it, if you have an automation built in, well, then if there is a critical bug or a high bug gets detected in a build should fail. Now you know there is a critical bug or a high severity bug that I need to fix. It's there and your build is failing.
But are we sure
The
that we need to fail the build?
Yes, you can. It depends because if it's a critical pipeline which has to go live within, let's say, 2 days, then you can't fail the build because you have to go live. But then you have to make sure that the bugs that are detected that gets fixed as soon as possible. Now, if the build is going to be live in 2 months, you have to make sure that the build fails, you fix the bug, and then move ahead. So you have to decide on the priority. What's your priority? Because security cannot choke everything, cannot be
Yeah.
just a blocker. Then, trust me, security has always been like a villain. That's what I've heard from everyone. We can't be. There is no time now to be a villain, but to be a friend who's there to suggest, to help, to talk and discuss. Because if, as a security researcher, we start becoming uh, enemies, no one is going to fix, and the things will not work out or will go worsen. Think about after so many things that the most bigger companies have done, they have like the best of security teams, still the breaches happen. So
Yeah.
if the teams themselves are not talking, what can go wrong? Where all the things can go?
All right. I think we reached our time limit. I'm gonna ask Vandana a positive note on cybersecurity, and then we close off. Whenever you can, Vandana. Oh, that's the beauty of life.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not fake, it's all real.
Oh, did we lose her?
No,
Did
no,
we
no.
lose her?
No.
I'm
Okay.
here. I'm here. It's
She's battling with the kid.
yeah. So
She's managing the stakeholders.
yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So I would only say that whenever you're stuck somewhere, ask for help, because help is very much needed if there is a trouble situation, and we are all there to help especially in security community, the peeps are really wonderful. The position that I've got, or the things that I have understood, it's all because of the community and the people around me. They have been so helpful. The knowledge sharing thing, it's marvelous. So if you're stuck somewhere, ask for help, ask for advice, and people would be ready to help you out.
That's amazing. So it's all about people, it's all about getting and reaching out. Vandana, thank you so much for coming, and thanks for all our guests to come here today. It's been amazing. I'm going to try to get the podcast out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Unfortunately, the schedule is quite busy, but I'll promise I'll try to do that as soon as I can. But thank you so much, Vandana, for coming and for spending your time in mentoring the community.
Thank you so
Have a
much for
lovely day.
inviting. Yeah. Have a lovely day. Take care and have a safe flight.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Thanks,
bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today and listening to the second part. I really wish that it was insightful and as fun and as enjoyable as it was for me. We have the next podcast coming up, that is with Jim Manico. We're going to talk again about the challenge of the board. He's been one of the board member, and what his future is, and where his next talk, and what are the challenges in AppSec nowadays. So I really wish and hope you come and join us in the podcast, in the live, in the community. And I hope these are really useful for you. So please let me know if you or somebody else want to come on this podcast or participate in the conversation. So thank you, everyone, and I wish you a wonderful day. Goodbye, stay safe.